Hi, welcome to all our viewers. This is Black Voices in Soccer, brought to you by the Deadwell Society, which consists of the Uproar, Oak City supporters, and the Red Eye Rowdies. We have got a ton of great folks on today. I know I'm really excited to talk to everyone. So I'm just going to start by introducing myself and then the rest of the panelists that we have tonight. I'm Jessica Turner. I'm the Vice President of the Uproar, and I will be moderating the panel. Soccer has always been a big part of my life. When I was a kid, I played soccer, and now as an adult, I am an avid fan and supporter. Our first panelist is Ruka Osoba, the founder and CEO of Launchmark. She's played soccer her whole life, throughout her childhood, and continues to follow the sport to this day. Our second panelist is Eboni Christmas, who is part of and even takes on a bunch of leadership roles in so many supporters groups, just too many to list. But we are so glad that she made time in her busy schedule to join us tonight, and all of the work that she does behind the scenes to keep our soccer culture so strong here in North Carolina. And last but not least, y'all probably know Jessica McDonald, and there's a good chance that her name is the one that brought you here today. She's a 2019 World Cup champion, and most importantly, back-to-back NWSL Shield winner and a back-to-back NWSL champion with the North Carolina Courage. So we are so excited to have all of you join us tonight. And we're just going to go ahead and get started with some of the questions. And so the first question that I just want to pose, any of you can kind of jump in and answer this one, is if you could tell us what role soccer has played in your life and what lessons you carry forward from it.
I guess I'll start. So soccer's played a huge role in my life. I probably wouldn't know 90% of the people I know today if it wasn't for soccer. It's allowed me to travel more. I've been to 2 different World Cups, hopefully going to a third. It's carried over a lot of lessons for me, like patience and the lesson of try new things and experience new things. Because up until 2015, I had never really left North Carolina except for outside of school, like school trips. So soccer's really taught me to branch out and really find my voice within the soccer community.
That's so cool to learn about you, first and foremost. So Eboni and I actually became friends over the years, and she's just an incredible human being. And obviously soccer has brought her into my life. And so that's one of the most beautiful things about soccer, just the connections that you have and the amazing people that you meet, the exposure that I have gotten globally as a footballer. I can say I have friends literally all over the world, which is really cool to say. So if, post-career, I want to continue to travel with my family, I have friends there. And that is one of the most beautiful things in my life, being able to have is just that camaraderie worldwide, which is something not a lot of people say. So that's definitely one thing I'm definitely grateful for, that soccer is truly brought into my life, because I think it's very important to obviously educate yourself elsewhere besides just where we're at. And, Earth is just such a beautiful place, and being able to be exposed to, Earth the way that I have with doing the career that I've been doing, it really is a true blessing.
I think from just kind of thinking back, I've always kind of been I've always kind of been an unfocused kid. I was always very unfocused and like just kind of all over the place. And so when I decided to go into sports and start playing soccer, it was really fun for me, but I think it actually really helped me focus, and kind of helped me like kind of understand the idea of like common goals, kind of like the collaborative team kind of environment. And I think a lot of that kind of plays into kind of where I'm at right now, being a CEO, where you have to work in a team environment. There's one goal at all times, or multiple goals, but you work as a team to get there. So there's a lot of parallels in terms of playing soccer in particular, and everyone balancing their weight on the team. That kind of plays into kind of where I am now. And so I borrow from a lot of those things to kind of help me move my company forward. So.
Yeah, I know for me, I think some of the things that I took from soccer playing it growing up was just like confidence in myself and like strength and belief, and teamwork and the importance of it and being there for people. It's just like, those are things, I think those are skills, just as like Ruka was saying, that you just take with you for the rest of your life, that are really important. So I want to talk a little bit about what was the first time that you all saw yourself like represented in the game, and how did that impact you, seeing someone that looked like you playing the game?
I can start. So I got into the game kind of late, around 2010, 2011. So on the men's side, it was more Tim Howard. On the women's side, it was more Shannon Box. Because that 2011 team, I think it was really only Shannon Box there. Brianna Scary was long gone by then. So that's kind of where I first saw myself being represented in the game. Obviously now that's changed quite a bit for both the men's and women's side, at least to me. But 2010, 2011 was those two big icons.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, where we were pretty much one of the few Black families in the neighborhood. So we were kind of automatically exposed to the game of soccer. And, my mother played and my brother played, and my brother was just always phenomenal at soccer. He started when he was 5 and he's played every year since. He played many years in the MLS as well. And I grew up more so of a multi-sport athlete. I didn't get into soccer until I was about 11, 12 years old. And of course I played when I was 5 years old, just like everybody else, but I didn't stick with it after that. So started up again and started taking it more seriously around that time, around junior high and high school. And, I was able to follow in the footsteps of my brother pretty much. I was always at his soccer tournaments growing up, and just being able to watch him play and really know the game. It was kind of an easy transition going from, basketball, track, softball, you name it, I did it before I started soccer. And then soccer just brought, a whole nother vibe to me. And that's how I've been able to stick with it, because I automatically had someone to look up to. So.
Yeah, I think just kind of echo that. My parents are immigrants. They are from Nigeria. Nigeria is a big soccer nation. And so growing up, I grew up just really just kind of like hearing about soccer like all the time. And everyone in my family, even my dad, my mom, we'd like kind of all like go out to a soccer field. My siblings, we kind of kick around the ball. And so I was always just kind of raised to we were just a soccer family. and so I played soccer. My little brother played soccer. My younger sister, who was a phenomenal soccer player and played for the state of Maryland and got to travel around the world playing. I think a lot of that kind of just came from the fact that like our parents are really into soccer, and they would talk to us a lot about soccer. And would name a lot of their favorite players. And Nigeria being a Black nation, all of their soccer, all the players that they would talk about were all Black. So it was kind of something that I'd always kind of had seen. Yeah.
If you are just joining us, want to thank you so much for viewing. I'm Jessica. I'm here talking to Ruka Osoba, Eboni Christmas, and Jess McDonald about Black experiences in soccer. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will be taking a few viewer questions later on during the discussion. So the next question I kind of want to pose to you all is a little bit about kind of obstacles. And so thinking about your experience, whether it be as a soccer player or as a supporter, what kind of obstacles have you faced, and how has that kind of impacted your view of the overall soccer community?
I guess I'll start again. So as far as obstacles, I didn't really see the obstacles until about 2020. Because it was very much, I was very much surrounded by white fans, because I started with white fans in 2011, 2012. So I kind of like shielded or bypassed a lot of those obstacles. But as 2020 came and went, and I kind of found my voice a little bit more, I realized that there were a lot that I had let go in the past that I couldn't do anymore. Just like the non-responsiveness of like a lot of these teams or these supporters groups, and like the overall lack of care or lack of awareness is also a huge hurdle that I've noticed and have had to educate or overcome with a lot of these supporters groups, or a lot of these teams, or a lot of these organizations. So I think that's the biggest obstacles that I've seen and faced over the last like 12 months.
Yeah, to bounce off of that, I mean, even my exposure to fans, there has been a lot of backlash toward me as an individual, especially like as a young little Black girl who's playing this predominantly white sport in the USA. I grew up literally the only Black girl on my team. Every year that I played club, I was the only Black girl. And that was something that was pointed out to me at a very early age. And I guess at the end of the day, I really didn't understand as a kid, because all my friends were white, and I played a white sport. So I was just, exposed to it all on a daily basis. So it was just a norm to me. But my grandmother, she was born in the 30s, grew up in the 40s and 50s in Alabama. And so she always educated us about how important it is to be Black in America and carry ourselves a certain way. And, she always had the same speech with me growing up. Like, you're the only Black kid in this tournament. You're the only Black girl that's, doing this, doing that. You continue to keep your head held high. Like I hear these people out here, what they're calling you, what those girls are calling you on the field. You hold your head held high, and you prove by your actions. And so I was like, okay, but like, what as a kid, you feel that pressure, and I didn't really know it more in depth. And then obviously as I got older and understood it a little bit more, I am very thankful that my grandmother taught me those things from the get-go, because when you're a kid, sometimes you just kind of like, your parents tell you something and you kind of like roll your eyes like, okay, mom, like, okay, dad. My grandmother always gave me that same speech before every game, and I'd be like, okay, grandma. But then, as I matured and got older, I became a little more wise about, Black history in the US, and really how important it is for us to dominate in everything that we do, because of obviously where we've came from and the things that we've gone through. So nowadays we have a voice, we have a platform, we're allowed to. My grandmother wasn't allowed to. My grandmother didn't have a voice at the time. It was very different for her. And so now that I have one, I can't do anything but obviously let the world know how beautiful it is being Black, and obviously just all the animosity that's going on. It's very unnecessary. So I think that's what has helped shape me into the human being that I am today, Black human being at that.
Hey, sorry guys, I'm having issues with my sound again, so my apologies. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think I have any more, much to add outside of the fact that, for most of the teams I have played on, I was kind of lucky in that there were other Black girls on the team. I think all throughout high school, there were like 3 or 4 other Black girls on the team that I had the opportunity to, and honestly, like grateful to play with. So I think as far as that is concerned, I think that it was always kind of a nice balance to, obviously not having Jess's experience where I was like the only Black girl on a soccer team. I think it probably came more, like a lot of what I experienced, where I experienced it was probably more the parents on the team, not so much the team itself. So like in middle school, just again, playing recreationally, there were just like things and assumptions that people would make about being like a Black athlete, like and they would say things or even like, being even told that, oh, well, like, oh, she can't play that spot or she can't do it or whatever. Whereas you've got like a whole team of white girls and they're like, oh yeah, like you could totally put her there. And then, you start to think, well, why do they think that I'm the only one who can't play this role? Like what, why? Like you just kind of start to, even at a young age, when you're dealing with parents who might have some like preconceived notion about who and what your abilities are, you kind of start to think, well, like, what's wrong with me? Like, did I, and so I think that was kind of where I ran into a lot of that. And I don't know if that's kind of the majority of other people's experiences, especially when you're younger and you're dealing with parents. Because yeah, the team that I was on, we were all pretty bonded to each other. It was a lot of the times the parents just kind of behaving a certain way when we were on the field.
Yeah, I definitely think something that was kind of touched on the last question, and I'm going to kind of throw my own question in here a little bit, was around like solidarity and having other Black players or Black supporters or Black women kind of on teams or around you. And so I just kind of wanted to throw out the question of like, what does that solidarity mean to you all, whether it's a player or as a supporter, to have, other Black players on the team or other Black supporters kind of with you in this moment?
I'll jump in here. To me, solidarity means the world, because that means there's someone out there that understands like what I'm going through. And that means that we can together find a common ground to grow. So having solidarity, whether it's from other Black supporters or allies or Black players, I can't speak to the player part, obviously, but to have those type of connections or those type of people around me that can show that type of solidarity is the greatest thing, because that means that we actively understand the issue and we also actively can work together to find a solution that works out for everyone involved.
The next question talks a little bit about systemic changes, and we know how a lot of times kind of the calls for change fall on those that are, you know, most impacted, and mostly it is people of color that are the ones that kind of always have to take a stand. And so I just kind of want to pose the question around, like, what do you all think about what is the place of like other groups as well stepping up and kind of speaking out, as well as like what are questions that you kind of wish like white people would stop asking you about issues as well. And so just kind of wanted to open that up and have that conversation as well.
Yeah, first and foremost, you know, I told you a little bit about my grandmother's story, and during her time, it was literally just Black people fighting for Black people. You know, it was just one big group of Black people, just the whole Black community sticking together, you know, fighting for what's right. And so pushing forward into today, due to COVID, you know, COVID has its pros and cons, I guess, depending on your situation. But globally, we were stood still because of the pandemic, because of COVID. So we're all at home, and the only thing people are able to rely on is their electronics, of course, to entertain themselves. And when that George Floyd video came out, it shook the globe. Like, people were shocked about it. For the Black community, that was nothing new to us. That wasn't a surprise. But protests back in my grandmother's day and looking at protests now for Black lives, it is so beautiful. People had protests in other countries for us. We didn't see that before. So just seeing the progression that's going on with, you know, millennials, Generation Z, X, whatever the case may be, we are the most educated so far in history. They're playing with the wrong generation right now. You know, you see the support that we've been getting. And boy, at some point, things have got to change. Just don't be racist. It's that simple. All right, I'm done. I mean, it's simple, right? Come on. Okay, sorry.
Oh, oh man, I wish it was that simple. I mean, it's hard to build off of that because what she said was so right. It's like, how hard is it to be a decent human being? I'm not even asking for like top flight. I'm just asking for like the bare minimum. Like, the bar is so low, you're still like, you could trip over it and still be just fine, but they're still landing short. And like, that's the craziest part about all of this is how, like, you're asking me for help, but you're still not understanding why I need it. And it's that same conversation of what versus why. And we're still having that same, well, what are you doing kneeling? Well, why are you kneeling? You know, it's those simple questions where people forget to change a word, and all of a sudden we're having a different argument than the one that was presented. So I think that's the biggest question that I wish people would stop asking is what, and start asking why. Because the why helps us get to the next step. Because why are people angry? Why are they kneeling? Why are they uprising all over the world for justice? There are Black people all over this world, and they all have experienced some type of the same type of crazy racism, misogynistic, some type of it, you know? And that's kind of where I land. Like, I literally had someone message me a couple of days ago that said, well, why are they kneeling? I literally sent them a link that said, let me Google that for you. Because it's out there. The information is there. You don't have to ask the nearest Black person. The research is there. Like Jess said, we are a nation of technology. And we have the resources to do the research and put the work in. It's just a matter of them actually doing it. So hopefully this is the call out that they need.
Hey, Jessica, and I apologize again, audio. Can you repeat the question, the two questions, so I can respond to it?
Yeah, of course. We were just talking about how the pressure to make systemic changes and to speak out often falls on people that are most impacted. So that's like people of color, mostly like Black people in this current moment. And so, you know, why is it important to have particularly white counterparts that are also speaking up? And then also, like, what are questions that you get asked that you just wish people would stop asking you as well in this moment? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because I've always I used to take the position that, you know, we should all come together, and like, you know, racism is something that we all need to bond together, and anti-Blackness is something we need to bond together and fix. And I still believe that, but I have, and hopefully I don't say anything controversial that people get upset about with me. You know, but I've always said that, you know, anti-Blackness and a lot of the racism that we as Black people face is, we should not be burdened with having to fix a system that was created by okay, so here's my question. How is this, am I open to kind of just speak freely?
I think I'm going to say that you were open to speak freely, and if it comes back on anyone, it'll come back on us. So
okay.
Uproar will take care of that. Speak freely.
Okay.
Yes.
I have long said that, you know, the system of racism and the system of just anti-Blackness shouldn't be burdened on the shoulders of Black people to fix. You know, we live in a society that is built off white supremacy. It's really a problem that a lot of the benefactors of white supremacy need to fix. I think that, you know, unfortunately, you know, we as Black people don't have the luxury of waiting for people to fix it, because when we wait, Black people die, right? Like, that's just unfortunate. That's just what happens. So it's like we're almost being forced to fix a burden that we did not place on ourselves. And so, you know, I think when people ask me, kind of going back to kind of what both Eboni and Jess were saying, when people ask me, and I'm very, very vocal and very political on my Instagram page, when people ask me, or I get private DMs or messages from people who are like, oh, I didn't know that, you know, this, and this was happening, you know, how can I help? It's a question that irritates me, because to what Eboni was saying, you're kind of putting the burden on me to have to explain to you something that I've dealt with my whole life, instead of you to kind of go and do the research and search and do all those things. And so I think, kind of echoing what Eboni was saying, you know, instead of asking like, you know, can you do this for me? And can you do this for me? And can you tell me what organizations to support? And can you, you know, tell me this and that and that and that? Kind of go out and do the work. And if you need me to, if you, you know, come up with a list of things, what book should I read? I'm reading this, this, and this, and you want to have a discussion around those things, yes, I'm okay with that. But go out and do the work. You know, I am very adamant with my friends who do ask me those questions. I will just flat out tell them, go do the work. I'm not going to take the time to explain that to you, because as a Black woman, I feel like all we do is explain ourselves all the time, and explain, you know, ways for people to, do the work, instead of people going out and doing the work and then coming back. And so I would probably say just same thing, like, go do the research, and just not asking like, you know, or like even asking like, but do you really feel that way? You know, people challenging your experience as a Black person, a Black woman, when people are like, try to philosophize, and I'm like, don't do that. I mean, the reason why it's because I have dealt with these experiences before, as I'm sure all of us have. And so not questioning our experience and not questioning how and why we feel a certain way about like certain topics. And sorry, that's a long-winded way of just, telling people, I think if you want to be an ally, I think go out and do the work and show that you're willing to put in the work, and then come back and then engage and let us know, okay, where can we come in and help in that way? So.
Thank you for sharing that, and we definitely want people to feel that they can be as honest or as radical as they want to be in this space. We welcome that in this space. So thank you for being bold in that way. If you have just joined us, I want to thank you so much for viewing. I'm Jessica Turner from The Uproar, and I'm talking to Ruka Osoba, Eboni Christmas, and Jess McDonald about the Black experience in soccer. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. We are going to be taking a few viewer questions pretty soon. So the next question that I want to talk about a little bit is people who are using their platform to advocate for racial justice. And so who do you all see that you think are using their platform in a really powerful way? And what are ways that you've been able to use your platform either as a supporter or as a soccer player as well to advocate for racial justice?
Where do I start? WNBA, NBA, as professional athletes, we've been actually able to reach out to one another. Oh, WNBA, y'all had these shirts made. You guys did this, you guys canceled games. Like, who orchestrated this? What did y'all do? So it's been very easy for us to communicate with others within our career field as pro athletes. And, that's kind of one way that we've been able to communicate to help create change, obviously.
I'm on the supporter side of it. So mostly like seeing these Black player coalitions form in like all the leagues has been awesome. To see all of them pop up. That's probably been the coolest thing just to see and just to help amplify. Personally, I've kind of amplified a little bit more within the past year. I don't have the biggest platform, but I'll use whatever I have to make sure that people are heard. I've said it from the beginning and I'll say it today. Like if you are standing beside me, you have a voice no matter what. So if you're doing something that needs amplification, I'm going to do my best to make sure that you are heard and amplified. And I think that's come true with like a lot of these groups that have popped up, like Footy Mob. They've been in the game for a while, but Footy Mob, For the Culture, Rose, the new group from DC, from Doug, I think it was Rose Room. Want to make sure I said that right. I'm sorry. Black Fires, Featherstone, just all these different groups from all these different leagues, getting their voices to be heard. That's kind of been the coolest thing about all of this.
So I think, in all honesty, I feel like, I'm not as plugged into a lot of the supporter groups. I kind of typically watch from afar. But I think to what both, especially what Jess was saying, where like I think athletes have a really great platform to elevate their voices in a way that myself and Eboni don't have, to where, like people underestimate the power of influence in the power of like voice. And so, Jess and like some of the other athletes that, whether it's like soccer or, kneeling with Kaepernick or whatever that is, like the power that they have to just like influence and change and like get people to listen is massive. It's huge. And so I'd probably say that, that I definitely will also use my platform. I use my Instagram platform. Sometimes it gets me in trouble. I'm very, very politically vocal. And so I try to use my platform as much as I can, Facebook, Instagram, to talk about the importance of respecting Black humanity and Black athletes, and knowing that just because they're athletes doesn't separate their voice from who they are as people, So like an athlete can kneel or wear shirts saying, "I can't breathe," and be totally within their right, because more than anything, they are people first. They're Black people first, and they can, voice that. So, so I feel like I get on soapboxes a lot, but but I think, I think that, I think, to just echoing, like, athletes have they have a really great platform to influence millions of people.
I want to give a quick shout out. The Black Women's Player Collective has a GoFundMe that is out right now. And so I'm sure someone can drop a link to it in the chat. But if you are able to, please support this GoFundMe, elevate it on your platforms if you can. That is one active step you can take tonight to support the Black women's players in the NWSL. So we are going to take. Oh.
I did have one question. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask Jess. So, I know, like, as an athlete, sometimes you have to, and it's just out of my own curiosity, you have to kind of always walk that line, or having to have people, respect kind of you as a player, but also understanding that you as a Black woman are also entitled to feel the way you feel and speak out the way you want to speak out in protection of, like, Black people. Like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you kind of get to a place where you feel that people can hear and accept what you're saying and saying, support and protect, Black women and Black people, without them being like, "Oh, that's an athlete," or, "Oh, that's someone just saying that"?
Yeah. Regardless of the situation, really, because there are a lot of things that I protest for, not just for being Black, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And we already know, as athletes, we're going to get critics coming with our career automatically. It's how you deal with those critics. Those critics is what is truly going to define your character. You learn the hard way, or someone teaches you, hey, this is how, you should speak in public. This is how you should kind of carry yourself. And my grandmother played a huge influence in that. And so I think it just kind of, carried over into today, growing up, kind of learning that, hey, things are going to be hard. People are going to say this, people are going to say that, people are going to do this. It just comes with the territory. And so one thing that I try to be, especially when I speak my voice, is just being bold. I have this platform. And so, to be honest, this is something I haven't even told very many people. I was very quiet as a kid. I was just this quiet kid. I played sports, but like just go on about my day. And I was just quiet at home, just quiet. And I finally broke out of my shell come, later in high school, college. And now it's crazy because I still have that little bit of that little girl in me where, I can still be quiet, but I'm like, oh, I got to be bold. So it's just something that I have to really remind myself. But knowing at the end of the day, regardless of what I'm protesting for, there's always going to be critics. People hate what they don't understand, and we have to accept that. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, you don't understand. I don't know what else to tell you, and just kind of move on from that point on. So, yeah.
So we are going to take a question from one of our viewers, from Chuck Gibbons. And Chuck says, you know, soccer is considered to be one of the more progressive sports in terms of fan issues, but there's still fan awareness, excuse me, but there are still some issues. Does education around these issues come down to the club, the league, the fans, the venues? Kind of where should that start?
I can tell you from a fan perspective, I think it comes down to the fans. Like, if you're allowing it to happen around you in your section, then that's just as bad as hearing it from like across the stadium to me. You have to be just as vigilant of the people around you as yourself. Because if one person says something, then the whole section is now painted as that group, you know? One person's actions is going to ruin the whole thing. So it starts with us as fans policing fans. So it's going to be hard. You're going to have to stand up to that one person. But I think that if you have the right group around you, which you should hope you do, it shouldn't be as bad as it used to be. He's right. Like, it has progressed a lot. We're no longer having bananas thrown at players. It's just a chant in a stadium now. So, yeah.
If you are just joining in, want to thank you so much for viewing. I'm Jessica Turner from The Uproar, and I'm talking to Ruka Osoba, Eboni Christmas, and Jessica McDonald about the Black player experience in soccer. We are going to just go into kind of one more question and close it up for the night. What are you all most looking forward to kind of in the next 5 years, or what are you excited about for the future, whether around Black players in soccer or Black supporters?
Thank you. I am most excited to see this sport, especially in the US, getting more and more diverse. You know, I don't know if people really noticed that 6 out of the first 10 draft picks this year were Black women, which was so beautiful. And the courage, every single pick that they had in the draft was Black. You know, I was like, let's go, my sisters. So I think that I'm really looking forward to seeing this sport continue to get dominated with some more Black excellence over the years. So that's definitely one thing that I'm definitely looking forward to in the future.
Yeah, I think also just I think what I would, I mean, at least what I hope is that you know, we start to see kind of related to what I was asking just earlier, but you know, that we start to see a more acceptance of people understanding that, you know, Black players aren't separate from the lives that they still lead, whether you're a woman or you're Black or brown or LGBTQ, like, you know, you are allowed to have a voice in a part of like your identity, and, you know, fans shouldn't penalize that player or that team for being able to speak something that they believe and truly feel. And so I'm kind of hopeful. I think from what I've been hearing and from what I've been seeing, there's kind of like a general acceptance, or slow growing acceptance, that you know, that we need to be able to start to listen more and hopefully judge less. So
in the next 5 years, I want to see more Black players, more dope kits, and more acceptance. That's all I want. I want more dope kits and more Black players to wear those dope kits. I want to see every little kid rocking a Mbappe or a Crystal Dunn, or Macario. I just want to see it all. I want to see so many Black names on the back of these jerseys that people are just shook and they don't know what to do. So that's what I'm hoping we're leaning towards. It seems like we're almost there.
Yeah, I think it's really good to end on a note tonight of just hope for the future of our sport, whether it's like Jess just said, in the draft this year, seeing so many great Black women get drafted in the first round, or thinking about little Black kids that, yeah, do want to, you know, grow up wearing a Crystal Dunn shirt and seeing her, you know, ball out, and then being able to see that and see that for themselves and grow up believing in that. So I think that's just like a really great hope for us. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. Just want to thank you all again so much for your time. We want to thank you all on the panel, viewers, and everyone behind the scenes who helped put this together. It was many hands made light work for this. This will be available on YouTube for you to rewatch and share with your friends. We really think the conversations today that we had are so important, but they're also really only the beginning. It's the start of this, of what needs to be done in this fight. And so please continue to have these conversations and continue to take the steps necessary to use Google first, maybe before asking your Black friend a question. Could be another step that you could take towards in this fight. If you love soccer, and you want to get involved in your soccer community, look up your local supporters group. There are supporters groups that support local clubs, whether you follow the NWSL, whether you follow MLS, whether you follow USL. They are out there, they're passionate, they love soccer. Definitely get involved with them. Here in North Carolina, if you want to learn more about the Uproar, we support North Carolina Courage here in the Triangle. You can follow us on social media at UproarNC on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Oak City Supporters is a wonderful supporters group that supports the men's side of NCFC and the USL League One. Yes, okay, I got it right, in the League One. And you can follow them at oakcitysupporters.com, as well as on social media at Oak City Supporters. And we are part of the Dead Whale Society. So we also are with the Red Eye Rowdies, which is a supporter group for the Carolina Hurricanes. And so you can find them at Red Eye Rowdies at squarespace.com. So I want to thank everyone again for coming tonight. And I'm seeing a little note from kind of one of our background producers that says that I also need to let people know you can learn more about the Uproar at uproarnc.com. So sorry that I skipped over there, but I'm going to come back and get that one just for us. But just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and hope everyone has a great night.